The last 2 weeks in the global auto market have been some of the most insane and illogical that the world has ever seen. For starters, Onvo has launched the L60 at a reduced price of 160,000 RMB with the battery renting option. SAIC is about to launch the 7X, their new global SUV, and Wuling again has launched another bargain basement model. In the meantime, VW went and announced a new ICE Passat Pro. But it gets so much worse, especially for VW in the last 2 weeks. Now, I don't want to bash VW, but the last week has seen even more news come out from the company. It was reported by Bloomberg this week that SAIC and VW are looking to potentially close their plant in Nanjing. This was a plant that produced ICE cars for both VW and Skoda here in China. This is still allegedly happening and it's just rumours reported in Bloomberg. But given the recent news about VW, I would not be surprised. And did you know that VW has 39 factories in China? I did not know that. But given their lackluster EV sales in the country and no real new models coming up in the next few years, that is a massive overcapacity in a rapidly shrinking market for the company. And you compare just the last week in what's happened across China with new launches. NIO with their new brand Onvo, SAIC with the 7X, Wuling with another model coming out, and then VW decide to bring out an ICE Passat Pro. And you soon start to realise this is why they've got problems. But I don't want this to be a VW bashing episode. I also want to talk about SAIC, the partner of VW here in Shanghai. SAIC are really beginning to hurt as a result of what's happening with VW. Upmarket range, the IM range, Zhiji as they're known here, doesn't have spectacular sales so far this year. Additionally, SAIC is facing some of the highest tariffs in Europe, 36.3% at time of making this video. That is one of the highest tariffs put on any Chinese auto manufacturer, and SAIC are the most exposed in Europe with their very successful MG brand. This really does add to SAIC's global woes. This is not just a legacy auto problem. This is now becoming a legacy and China auto manufacturer problem. As we all know, European legacy auto manufacturers are really struggling to bring out cheaper, more affordable models to the market, which really does not help with what is going on with Chinese EVs. There's only a handful of affordable models in Europe. Something like the VW ID3 in Europe is over 30,000 euros. So who's going to fill that gap for affordable EVs for the consumers that want it? Of course, it's the likes of BYD and XPeng and Geely and all of the other Chinese auto manufacturers. And although the EU thinks that tariffs will help slow them down, it may slow them down for probably just a few months, the reality is it's going to bite even harder for legacy auto manufacturers, particularly the ones in Germany. In another report from Bloomberg, they also claim that the Chinese government is preventing these manufacturers from setting up shop in Europe with complete assembly lines. Essentially, they're asking for Chinese manufacturers to keep tech within China and just supply knockdown kits to European factories. We don't know if these claims are true. We don't know what effect it will have, but this has been a really remarkable few weeks in the auto space, both in China and globally. Things are moving every single day, and it's very difficult to keep up to date. The reported closure of the VW SAIC plant is really just the beginning and the tip of the iceberg. VW is one of the first to face this crisis, but this is a contagion. It's going to spread to other legacy auto manufacturers in Europe first, and then it will start affecting the US market. Whether you ban Chinese EVs, whether you have 100% tariffs, at the end of the day, this is an unstoppable force. You have to remember that companies like GM are still very exposed to the Chinese market. Huge amounts of their profits came from China, although that is shrinking at a very rapid pace. And their brands such as Cadillac are really beginning to struggle here in the market. And this is also another headache for SAIC, who team up with GM on a number of cars. So SAIC's headache is growing even bigger. But I want to give you one example here in the Chinese market. VW offer the ID3 here for about 120,000 RMB, or around about 15,000 US dollars. Now the Envoy L60, which has just been announced, is around about 40,000 yuan more, or about 6,000 US dollars more than the ID3, and it's got the latest technology. It's with Neo, it's got the battery swapping, etc, etc. And you can see where these legacy manufacturers are really beginning to feel the pain. Their pace of innovation just cannot keep up with these Chinese manufacturers, and they're having their breakfast, lunch and dinner eaten right in front of them. Now, it's not all bad news for legacy auto though. BMW are seeing a bit of a sales rebound of late. A brand like Renault has really woken up to the EV market and is now offering really brave choices, bringing them to market very quickly with cars like the Renault 5. And that is exactly the kind of car that Europeans want to buy and want to drive. Some legacy auto brands will weather this storm much better, and those who get an early lead, such as Renault, will likely be standing proud in a few years' time when the dust begins to settle. And it's not all over, and it's not all bad news. Now, although Tesla's market share is shrinking here in China this year so far, they've dropped down about 1 to 2% so far. Tesla is still a very popular option over in Europe, and their sales are increasing. Now, unless they start bringing out more innovative, smaller models for that European market, they soon will begin to see slowing sales. So what's the way forwards now? It seems like an impossible task to overcome this wave of Chinese EVs. Well, look at both Stellantis and VW again, who have teamed up with Chinese auto manufacturers. Stellantis, of course, have teamed up with Leap Motor, and we are expecting those cars to come into the European market any time in the next few months. They will also be expanding in places like Australia and New Zealand. Now, this is interesting because it gives Stellantis a real leapfrog ahead of some of the slower German auto manufacturers. VW are hoping to do the same with their collaboration with XPeng, who are hoping to bring out models in 2026. I expect a release of those in 2025. And that really is a perfect combination of VW hardware and XPeng software. That really could help VW out of this sticky situation. Everyone has always said there will be a consolidation at some point, and I think we're getting very close to seeing the start of that consolidation. Smaller manufacturers will either come together or start to fade out altogether. We've seen Japanese auto manufacturers teaming up with American auto manufacturers. Everyone's getting in bed with each other to try and tackle what is happening in the market. We're better together, strength in combining these companies, and only the strongest will survive. We will definitely see Chinese auto manufacturers not survive. Some of those will collapse in the market, as we've already seen with brands like Weltmeister and Hi-Fi. So all in all, a very tumultuous few weeks, which has seen almost the whole automotive landscape shift in such a massive way. It's not an understatement to say what we've seen in the last couple of weeks really highlights how bad it is for legacy auto manufacturers, but also highlights how far behind the European and US market is at the moment. With the pricing being so cutthroat here in China and amazing models coming out for ridiculously affordable prices, this will only spur them on to start launching more and more in Europe, where there is a gap in the market. So watch this space, keep watching these videos. Hopefully we'll try and keep up together and learn more about the Chinese auto market. Thank you very much.